to New York City to meet with National Geographic photographer Ira Block. He's going to show us some tips.
Yay.
Ira has a gallery of its documentary photography about baseball in Cuba, and it's featured in his gym, so he took us there to look at some of his shots and talk about his project. So when you're doing a photo story, how are you going to one location and grabbing the essence of an entire culture?
You always have a point of view in your photography. So on my trip to Cuba, I wanted to look at something that was positive in a culture. This is actually one of my favorite shots. I was shooting a women's baseball team in front of the scoreboard.
You couldn't design something more charming.
No. And I noticed the kid on the fence was just watching the whole thing. Ladies left. I still had the strobe set up. I popped it, and there's just something, about that scoreboard and the kid that just makes things happen.
And look how he's framed by the telephone poles in the background.
Kids will play any ball game on the streets there.
Yeah.
And I met these kids. I gave them a roll of tape so they can make a ball. And I just got lucky that when that pedicab came by, the kid was just...
You got some action in the shot.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect moment too, with the dirt flying up.
The thing I like about this is it looks a little like ballet. The curve, the way the guy's body language is, and the dust flying and everything. It just has, a certain look to it. It's action, but it's...
Graceful.
Graceful, yeah, because a shot of some guy sliding into, close-up of some guy sliding into second base. Well, that could be shot in Cuba, that could be shot in Cleveland.
Yeah.
That could be shot anywhere. So this one I just picked, I was up overhead.
Yeah, how did you get that angle?
I climbed on some roof. I had a lot of good access and permissions when I was there. When I'm looking around for photos, I look for light and color.
Yeah.
I get, if there's some ordinary light here, but look, over there's, a highlight, a shadow.
You go to the light.
I go to the light. I think, it's a good place to start. One of the things I found is if there are a bunch of people standing around and you walk up to them and start shooting, you've invaded their territory. On the other hand, when I look at finding a good background and waiting, so I find a great background, and I'm sitting there for a half hour, an hour with my cameras, obvious. If someone walks in front of me,
they're in your space.
They're now in my space, and that gives you the upper hand. Once you get friendly, you meet some kid, you get friendly with them, whatever, you stick with them.
Yeah.
I just stuck with them for a few hours that day, and they started playing ball, and the light was getting great. So there was an apartment upstairs, and got into the apartment.
How did you do that?
I had made friends with the kids.
Yeah.
So the kids would say to someone, hey, he wants to go up and take a picture of us playing ball upstairs, and they were happy with it. It's all about building a relationship when you're shooting documentary photography, having people trust you.
Do you ever talk to them and say, oh, you look great in this light, I'm just going to snap a picture?
Yeah, and I'll show. And the thing that's super about digital is that you could show them what you're trying to get, and then they'll look at the picture and they'll say, wow, the light, I understand what you're trying to do now.
Yeah.
And then they get it.
Yeah.
And it tightens your relationship with them.
That's really cool. That's a good skill then. So you have to have people skills. You have to be friendly.
Yeah. It doesn't always work, but it works a lot. And it's a good it's a good starting point.
Those are great tips. I love this one, the blue and red house with his shorts match.
I was standing on this corner for probably a half hour. I was just waiting, shooting, and out of the corner of my eye I saw the horse, and then I saw that shadow coming, and then I was just lucky
They walked by at the same
Those
time.
and you're right. The colors, the blue, and a little bit of the faded yellow.
Yeah.
Again, you can't plan this stuff. It just
You
happens.
have to be patient
Yeah.
and know the right light.
I always say, find a great background and wait for something to happen in front of you, because a lot of shots you get that are good, the background can suck, and it takes away from your picture. And then this is a sign outside one of the big ball clubs, one of the big stadiums. And again, this is where I waited for about a half hour to get the right thing going by. And I just thought the size of the bike,
Fits.
it worked. The red and the orange there. When I shoot pictures, I've been doing this so long that I just know what feels right sometimes. It's just, I don't think about it. And when I do a workshop or a class and I show my pictures to students, I start analyzing it. And that's when I figure out what I did.
Yeah, so in the moment you just know it looks right.
I just, there's this thing from years of doing it where you go, it just feels right. So little things like the reflections in the hood of the car from the lamps.
The framing of the lamps.
Yeah, it all, and with any picture I take, I can always say, oh, is there something wrong with it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're not a perfectionist and always want to do better, you're not going to grow as a photographer.
Want to see more of Ira's work? Follow him on Instagram. His pictures are great. And don't forget to order his book called Cuba Loves Baseball, A Photographic Journey. There are beautiful pictures in there. You'll enjoy looking at the photos, but you'll also learn a lot.